Hi and welcome back. In this series of videos we will be building a mid-century modern entertainment center. It's quite detailed, so the videos will be a little bit more elaborate. And let's get started. We'll start with just checking the moisture content in our lumber and make sure it's acceptable. We want it to be dry so we can avoid any expansion and contraction issues in the future. And as you can see right there, this wood is quite dry, so we're going to be just fine. Alright, let's see what we got to do to get this lumber into the shape we desire. We'll reference our plans and start cutting out our rough dimensions here before we have to start the milling process. Now we got them cut to about 6 or so inches over our desired finished length. We'll start getting them nice and straight and flat. Here we're using a jointer on the flat side first, as I'm sure you've seen in videos before, and then we'll square up the edge. Our desired thickness for the first piece that we're making, which is the bottom shelf of this unit, is going to be 1 inch thick. So we're going to start by resawing this wood. Now we have a flat reference plane to approximately 1 1/8 inches, 1 3/16 inches, and then we'll continue finishing the prep work from there. Now 2 of those boards were way too crowned to be able to use them as they were without removing a significant amount of lumber or material during the milling process. So I cut them into smaller pieces and flattened them from there. And now what we're doing is we're going to put them back together using finger joints. This is a finger joint cutter on the shaper there, and we're going to cut them out and then put them back together, and we'll have much straighter boards without sacrificing so much materials, and it'll be barely noticeable in the end product. Now with our finger joints cut, we're going to glue these together, and then we're going to reface them with the jointer again to get them trued back out, because they'll just be a little bit off, not much at all. But let's start here by clamping down one side and gluing up the other, and then compressing them together. We'll get that glue in there real nice, then we'll brush it around a little bit, and then we'll put it flat with the other piece there and compress them. Look at how beautifully that interlocks. The benefits to that type of joint there is it's incredibly strong with the increased surface area that the glue can adhere to. And it compresses well, and when we're done, because we lined those up in the beginning, they'll be barely noticeable in the finished product. Here I am tightening the clamp that's installed in the bench dog. Bench dogs are an invaluable contribution or addition to any workspace. Now the glue is set, let's loosen up the clamps, and our boards are as good as new just about. A little refacing, And we'll put them with the other two and start the assembly process. So here we're going to plane our 4 boards to nearly the desired thickness, because we still want to plane them again. Because what I want to do is, because I only have a 12-inch or so planer there, is glue 2 of them together, then glue the other 2, run them through again, then glue the entire piece together in one shot to save on the amount of sanding and finish work at the end. We're doing a lot of the material prep in this first video here. It's all going to be the same for the rest of the components, so we will not be repeating it in subsequent videos, but it gives you a good idea what's going into taking our rough sawn lumber and getting it ready. Alright, our boards are starting to look respectable. Bet you can't tell me where the 2 that we cut in roughly half and put back together are, but they're there. So now we're going to start our basic layout, getting a rough idea where we want to put the dominoes, so when we cut our final shape we don't cut through one on the edge and have to fix or see it later. Now that we have our boards in the order that we want to have them in as far as layout goes, and we've laid out nearly our finished piece, the shape of it, we're going to mark where we want to cut the dominoes. Alright, let's cut out for our dominoes using the domino machine there. We'll follow our lines. Like I said before, we're only going to do 2 of these at a time, so we can run them through the planer one more time. So the next step, we'll just assemble the whole piece to save, later on in the finishing process. Alright, let's put some glue on there, put our dominoes in. Make sure we got a decent amount, no reason to use too much, but you definitely don't want too little. Get a bunch in those holes there. We can start putting our dominoes in, and then we're going to clamp everything and put it together. Here we are, just brushing that glue around a little bit, get a nice even coat there. Just helps to keep it more uniform and better adhesion. Put the dominoes in, and that's it. Okay, we ran these 2 boards that were glued together, or 2 sets of boards that were glued together through the planer, down to our finished thickness, 1 inch. So what I'm doing here is laying out where the dominoes are going to go to glue those 2 halves together. Then it's the same thing as before. We'll use the domino machine, install the dominoes and glue, and we will have our blank to cut into our finished shape. Now that we got it all assembled there, we just clamp, making sure we're keeping it flat along the way, but with a properly jointed edge, and the dominoes, which that's really what they're good for, is alignment and helping to maintain the stability of the piece you're working with. It will remain very, very flat, and it'll be perfect for when we're going to start cutting out, and then even better for assembly. Here we are with a nice, beautiful, flat, wide board to start cutting our final shape. All that work was worth it, and it will make for a wonderful piece when combined with the other components later on. What I'm doing here is I'm cutting our first reference edge, square with our back reference edge there, and from those 2 points we will lay out everything else and then cut it all into the desired shape. For the remainder of my cuts, instead of hanging over the edge there, I'm going to put our piece up on stickers to avoid cutting into my workbench and just make everything easier overall. Now, looking at our plans there, we can see what we're trying to achieve here, so we're going to start taking measurements and mark out all the points, and then use a piece of aluminum extrusion there to draw the lines of where we need to cut. Now that everything's marked out, we'll just take our track saw there and start cutting. This is the finished shape, so we're cutting right to our lines, and we're shooting for perfect here. And there it is, nice, cut the shape, followed the drawings to the letter, and we are ready to start filling in all those little imperfections there. So I'm going to start with just some tape. This is a very, very small bit of epoxy we need, so we don't need a whole lot to keep it where it needs to stay. So we'll tape up the bottom side, because it's the top side we're really worried about making super nice, and go ahead and mix us some epoxy. We're only mixing a small amount here, so we're going to put a little pigment in there. I chose gold for this piece, and then we're adding our epoxy. You see I'm on a scale there. This is by weight, which you definitely need to read your epoxy so you know which one you have, whether it's by weight or by volume. This one's by weight, and this is a 2-to-1 mix, so there's my 1 part there. I already did my 2 part. And then we're just gonna mix, and mix some more. Then it's just as easy as pouring it into the holes that we prepped. And mind you, this is deep pour epoxy, which I didn't mention before. There's a big difference between this and tabletop. We use tabletop in really, really heavy applications where the volume's high. It will overheat on you. This stuff will not. But anyway, so we're filling in all these little imperfections all the way around. There's one on the edge there that I didn't quite get into this shot, but it's alright. This little one here, we'll fill it right on in. And then just going to hit it with the heat gun real quick to get rid of any air bubbles, and that will be that. Please subscribe and follow this channel.